Angela Richardson.
Thank you, Ms McDonough, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I'd like to congratulate my honourable friend, the member for Truro and Falmouth, for securing such an important debate today and for her moving contribution and her strength and her courage in sharing her story and her loss of baby Lily. This year will be remembered as a difficult year for so many, but particularly for those who have lost loved ones and especially a much longed-for baby. I speak today because my difficult year in relation to baby loss was in 2003, and it coincided with the SARS outbreak. Stopping through Singapore for a couple of days in February in February of 2003 on our way to introduce our firstborn to her New Zealand grandparents, myself, my husband and our baby daughter became very ill with a high temperature and a continuous cough. Only a few days later, our baby was coughing up blood and we were straight into A&E where she was treated for pneumonia for several days. We were not counted in any official statistics and we were not tested. It could have been any other type of virus that was prevalent at that time. But it was an illness that knocked us for 6, and it's the most ill I've ever been in my life. I was so ill I was not well enough to care for my baby. I then went on to miscarry in June, September and December of that year. Whilst my personal experience is anecdotal and correlation is not causation, the timing of my experience did get me wondering, as we are discussing the effects of long COVID and the long effects of any viral illness, whether a heightened immune response that lingers on has any bearing on an increased incidence of miscarriages. And I would be interested to know of any scientific research, either historic or underway now into this, could be a factor for repeat miscarriages. Returning to the matter of baby loss, I know that my year of grief was a fundamental tipping point in my life and caused me to reevaluate everything I thought I knew, believed, cherished, and held dear. I understand a little of isolation, being an immigrant to this country and not having had time to build the extensive networks or have those deep roots that many have who grow up here. Though I did have my NCT group, and I will never forget how blessed I was that I was busy hosting our regular gathering when I started contracting at 14 weeks, 2 weeks after we'd announced to everybody that we were pregnant again. One friend scooped up my daughter and took her home to look after her, and the other one took me to the local doctor. She was with me when my waters broke. Then she took me to A&E and stayed with me through a difficult labour and delivery. I wasn't prepared for many things, including my milk coming in afterwards, or that years later I would have flashbacks. I asked for tests to be done on this particular miscarriage because it was further along than the other two. Unfortunately, I received a note from the consultant a couple of weeks later to say that they hadn't done the tests and the fetus had been taken to be incinerated. Like what's been mentioned here by other members, you are always left wondering, what did you do wrong? What could you have done differently? And not having answers is probably one of the most difficult things. I can only imagine how difficult it is for families who have had to endure this through lockdown conditions. We need to make sure that support is in place for these families. By the time our second child arrived, I'd been pregnant almost continually for 18 months. I've spoken openly about suffering from both peri- and postnatal depression. The effects of baby loss are profound and long-lasting. The passage of time has softened my grief, and my mother always said you can't put old heads on young shoulders. But if I can use this important debate today to send a message to women out there who are coping with baby loss during this time of extra concern and difficulty with COVID, be kind to yourself and be patient. Don't be afraid to ask for help from your frontline healthcare providers and get any support you need with mental health. Taking the opportunity today, as we're doing here, and for those women out there to tell their story is a wonderful thing that we can do for each other, to let others know that they're not alone, especially in this time when we are concerned about isolation and loneliness more than ever before. Thank